Honorable Minister, a very good day to you, and thank you for coming to share with us amazing news coming out of Madagascar. It's nice meeting you virtually. I think this is great news. This is great news coming out of Madagascar. We have to understand that for centuries, intellectual properties, African intellectual properties have been stolen from the continent. Many of the drugs that we use coming from the West today, they are herbs from Africa that we are not able to patent for ourselves. At various levels, our intellectual properties are being stolen. I use an example of the African professors. Before they can attain tenure, they've got to write anywhere from 15 to 40 research papers. And all those research papers have to be evaluated outside Africa. If you were a former British colony, your articles, your research paperwork will go to Britain. If you're French, if you're Belgian, so all our intellectual property is getting out of Africa. Those who are reading those research material, they tweak it a little bit, and before you know it, they own it. So I am so pleased to see Madagascar taking a position and claiming what belongs to Africa. This is an African herb. We do not need outsiders to tell us what to do with herbs that we have been using for centuries. The herbs that our ancestors, our grandparents, our great-grandparents have used on us. I remember distinctly as a little girl, whenever someone was sick, grandma would just go into the back, into the fields behind the house, and sometimes in some cases in the village, and come back with a few herbs and boil them, and we got better. I remember having an ear infection myself, and grandma just roasted a few leaves from the backyard and squeezed them into my ear, and the severe ear pain that I had was gone. They just had to do that a couple of times a day. For a few days, I still remember them having to hold me down just to squeeze the leaves into my ear. So Africa has a lot to offer when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to herbal medicines. So I applaud Madagascar for standing their ground, for defending their turf. I applaud 37 African heads of states who have stood up and said, Madagascar, we are with you. What belongs to Africa belongs to the Africans. And this time is going to be African problems with African solutions. Hallelujah to Madagascar. We are with you. And thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's so nice. And that's powerful. Thank you so much. You know, the key is to understand that all African people can propose an African solution to a worldwide and global issue. And that's the case now. And as I explained before, you know, for the first time, the world doesn't talk about Africa in a negative way, or in disaster, or such terrible things like deaths, poverty, and natural disease. It's time for Africa to get united and to stand tall and proud. And you know, our president, the Malagasy president, has launched a call to all African countries and to all countries of this world which wish to join us, to join this Malagasy approach and conduct studies together and to constitute together an autonomous and united African knowledge. The problem is that if Madagascar were an European country, do you think there would be so many doubts and questions about the remedy? And I don't think so, because we are looked upon with condensation for a very long time, including even by our own African institutions like ECOWAS that we talked about before. And it's not normal. We have recognized researchers, one of the most developed pharmacopoeias in the world, a history, a culture, a traditional medicine. You just explained it, Mrs. Ambassador. So all of this, there are many reasons for Africa to stand tall and to be proud now. If we African countries, we can do it. Why not doing it? I mean, we don't have to wait for anybody else, and we don't have to wait for any international organization to tell us what to do to save our own people's lives. So I think we can move forward despite all the criticism and the attacks about the remedy, about how we manage our the pandemic here in our countries.
You have to understand this, in these international organizations, when they were created, they did not have Africa in mind. They were created precisely because they wanted to see to it that they can take advantage of Africa. They did not have Africa's best interest in mind. So let's not count on these international organizations. Africa United is a heavyweight. Africa United can take care of herself. Africa should have her own processes of our own DEA, where we can look at our own herbs and have our own scientists analyze them, do the research work, and do what Africa needs to do for her children. We must develop our own institutions that work for the people of Africa. That is the direction and the trajectory that we need to move towards, from a financial point of view, pharmaceutical point of view, educational point of view, complete total healthcare point of view. We must have African solutions for African problems, developed in Africa for the Africans. So once again, I am so pleased and elated by the news coming out of Madagascar, by the news coming out of Africa, with all the heads of state standing in solidarity in support of the position that Madagascar has taken. And once again, kudos to Africa.
There is no better proof than the patients being healed from the disease after being treated with the COVID organics. It is a preventive and curative remedy for COVID-19 that works very well, I can say it. And this is the result of research carried out by the Malagasy Institute for Applied Research, which has the status of regional research center by the Organization of African Union. It is a medical and pharmaceutical research and training center founded in 1957 by the Professor Ratsimaman, who was an eminent figure in African science. And the effectiveness of and the endemic Malagasy medicinal plants which are associated with it and which we have used for centuries are no longer to be demonstrated, and we are really, really proud of it. So thank you so much for all African people and all African countries which accepted the donation from Madagascar with this and thank you for everything. I was really delighted to have that interview down, and I'm proud to be able to have this opportunity to explain about the COVID organics and about the remedy, and also about the research that we continue to undertake to let's say to get over this pandemic.
Why do you think that WHO is not supporting this this medication?
You got to understand that these are political bodies, and we have big pharma behind everything that we do. Having a cure for COVID is big business, it's big money. So you have to look at it and say, who is behind it? Who stands to benefit if the drug is taken outside Africa? The same drug, if we don't watch it, by the time it goes to the West and becomes a capsule, it'll be so expensive that the average person on the street cannot afford it. Even us Africans, the same drug that we can buy for pennies to the dollar in Africa currently, if we allow it to get out of Africa, it's going to come back as a capsule, extremely expensive, that the average African is going to be left out. So again, there's politics behind it, which is sad, because people are dying, millions of people are dying, while we are busy playing politics. It's politics as usual, unfortunately and sadly. But again, like I said, it's high time that Africa stands up. Africa stands up and defends her turf and do what is right for the people of Africa. And so Madagascar, I cannot thank them enough for the position that they have taken. The research scientists, if you really try to sit down and think about it, the scientists abroad who are going to be doing some of this work on the COVID organics, the research work on the COVID organics, I can assure you easily a third of them are going to be continental Africans. So it doesn't matter whether they do the research work outside Africa, or they do the research work inside Africa. I can assure you, even in Madagascar, some of those research workers were once African diaspora. So we can do the work on the continent or outside the continent. We are simply protecting our turf. I am so excited and so happy that the African heads of states have taken this position to stand their ground and say, this time it's about Africa, and we are going to do what is best for our people.